Hi, I'm going to explain the structure of SDSN Youth. So broadly, we have three key different types of areas. So we have, first of all, our global programs. So these programs focus on specific domain areas. So this could be education, could be cities, entrepreneurship, so on and so forth. And even though the domain is specific, the scope is global. So what that means is, let's say with the Youth Solutions program, which is for young entrepreneurs and startups, even though they have to be a startup or have an idea, they can come from anywhere in the world. And that's what we mean by worldwide scope. Opposite to this is our networks, which are, the scope is geographical, so it's specific to a country or a region of countries, but their domain focus is broadly youth engagement on the SDGs. So for example, I might have a network in Australia, so the scope is for Australia specifically, but the domain focus is for youth engagement on the SDGs. So this could be in any form, could be education, entrepreneurship, but specifically for the geographical location. And then thirdly, we have the supportive team, which is the secretariat. So these are all kind of like our internal teams. We try to keep the organization running. So as you can see here, we've got things like fundraising, partnerships, marketing, operations, and then the supportive team for the networks. And together we all make SDSN Youth. And on the top, we have our director who leads the strategy for all of SDSN Youth. We will move on to the reporting structure of SDSN Youth. So I'm breaking down the teams and I'm now focusing on the positions. So this doesn't mean the hierarchy, but rather in each team, how do they interact in terms of reporting structure? So in each of the global programs and the secretariat, we have three key positions. So it is the project lead who leads the entire team, who manages the people. In some of the teams, we have deputy project leads. So these people might focus on a sub area and then help the project lead manage the third one, which is project officers. So these are the team members underneath. So usually you would have one project lead, potentially multiple deputy project leads, and then multiple project officers. And this is the structure of the project teams. When we look at the network side, our team members are called network coordinators as they coordinate the geographical network. They work very closely with the other network coordinators in a given region. So we have 4 regions for all of our networks. They fall under Africa, Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific. In each of these quote-unquote regional teams, you will find a number of network coordinators, a focal point. So you can imagine if we have a project lead for a project team, you have a focal point for a network team. So this focal point will help coordinate the regional, so the local representatives, which are our network coordinators, and work together to basically continue the mission of engaging youth locally. In some cases, some of the network teams will have project officers as well, and they work closely with the focal points. So in some, there are 3 types of positions. So there's a project lead, a project officer, and a network coordinator. And then these, and then there are variations of them. So deputy, focal point, and then network project officers. But generally, this is the structure, the reporting structure of SDSN Youth. And then lastly, all of the team leads, the project leads, report to the director of SDSN Youth. I'll explain how the networks relate to all of this in our next diagram, which is our organizational structure. So this is about, okay, now we know what teams we have. We know generally how the teams are structured, but what exactly do they do in them? So I'll start with the programs, the global programs. So each of the global programs have different sub areas or portfolio areas depending on what the program does. So Local Pathways is about, it's a fellowship, a training program to help young leaders learn about urban planning and cities and sustainable cities, and then create their own solution. So in this case, they have people who would engage with the fellows, people who would help create the content, and then maybe some other positions around partnerships, operations. Global Schools is very similar, so they are educating students about sustainable development in general. So they would also have team members on course content, engagement of the program members, so the advocates, marketing, operations, strategy. The Youth Solutions program, which is a sort of like an accelerator program with key components to help scale startups and entrepreneurs in the sustainable development space. They have team members who focus on the hub, which is where their entrepreneurs engage and are mentored. They have team members on the solutions report, which features specific solutions. And then they have people who focus on the investment readiness program, which is a mentoring accelerator program within Youth Solutions. And then similarly for the SDG students program, they have 3 key pillars. So the hubs, which are focusing on engaging the program members, which are called SDG coordinators. Team members who focus on programming and strategy for the entire program. And then also admin and operations. So as you can see, like generally we have people who engage with the program members, some form of marketing, content related position, and then also operations, partnerships, those type of like internal functions. Then we go into the secretariat. So in fundraising partnerships, you will find team members who will focus on grants, sponsorship, partnering with global events. So for example, a Vatican Youth Symposium will fall under here. Partnerships. So for example, we partner with FAF a lot to run the UN Youth Assembly. So that would fall into partnerships, and also growth. So identifying new ways of growing SDSN youth with partners. And then in communications and marketing, if you ever need help with social media, brand, marketing, the sdsnyouth.org website or graphic design, you would go to communications and marketing. Then we have the operations and networks team. So in this team, there is a lot of sub-teams. So if you were looking for anything to do with recruitment, HR, volunteer engagement, volunteer upskilling, you would go to the people and culture pillar of the operations and networks team. If you are looking at strategic planning, new ventures, anything related to admin, finance, or impact assessment, you would go to strategy and operations in the operations and networks team. And then we have the networks team, which I don't want us to confuse with the network coordinators. So the networks team, the youth networks team, is a supportive team for the network coordinators. These are the people who are on the ground in the specific geographical location, doing the direct engagement. Whereas this team is the team that supports and advises these local representatives. So in this case, we have a focal point for each of the regions. We have also team members that deal with relationship management as well. And then lastly, we have the network coordinators, and here is the full list of network coordinators. So what you'll notice is that there are 2 different types. There's a regional network and a national network, which is why some of these might not be super clear. So for example, Andes is a regional network, which encompasses a number of countries within it. Similarly to Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific, which is different to our national networks, which focuses on a specific country. So for example, Philippines, Greece, Turkey. So it's pretty clear, I hope, that how the programs work, or the project team. So we talked about the secretariat, the global programs, but then you might wonder, okay, how do the networks work when SDSN also has a network? So I'll very briefly explain how this structure functions. So SDSN has about 35 or so networks around the world. So if you recall, when I was talking about these national or regional networks, they are from SDSN. And so for every SDSN network, they can choose to launch what we call a youth network. which is the appointment of a network coordinator, which is one of our team members. And you can see this person here. So a key thing to note is for every youth network, there is an SDSN network, but for every SDSN network, there isn't necessarily a youth network. So we have about 22 youth networks. Each of these networks have what we call a regional or national network secretariat. So if you look at this diagram here, in the secretariat, generally you would have the network manager. So this person is the representative from UN SDSN, so the main global SDSN. They will focus on mobilizing the SDGs within their particular geographical location. They work closely with a network coordinator, which is our team member, who is part of SDSN Youth. And our network coordinator focuses on the same mission, but specifically on young people. And then the last person who is in the structure is a network chair. And the network chair tends to be generally a dean or a vice chancellor, and they are also part of the leadership council in SDSN as well. So basically the board who drives and advises the vision of SDSN as an entire organization. And what you'll notice is there are lines that kind of stick out to the right here, and these are kind of like our supportive teams. So if you recall back in this structure, I talked about how we've got these local representatives and then a supportive local team with a supportive global team within the secretariat. So this type of supportive team exists in all of the other positions of the network secretariat. So if our youth networks team is here supporting a network coordinator, the SDSN team also has a networks team that supports a network manager. And then there's also the leadership council, which contains the network chair. So there's this kind of a structure of support, and then a structure of the local team itself. What you will find some overlaps that may be worth noting is that in our member institutions, so these are institutions that are part of the SDSN network, you might also find what we call SDG coordinators. The SDG coordinators are program members of the SDG students program. So technically they are these type of people that are engaged from a global level. But they are based in the local network that our network coordinators are also based in. So the type of relationship there is a supportive relationship. So some of the network coordinators will work closely with the SDG coordinators to, advise and support them with the local context that they might have. But the SDG coordinators will report to the global team. So in that sense, it's kind of an overlap, kind of not an overlap. But the moral of the story being that there are other people who are also based in these networks as well, but not necessarily part of the network team. So that is SDSN Youth as a whole. If you are interested in learning more, this document here, which kind of explains everything in detail, including values, a mission and strategy, will be available in the intranet. So I hope this was insightful, and thank you very much.